Welcome back to the Infinity Podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Andrew Zang, CEO of Bespoke A.I.R, founder of Portfolio Pulse and Ask the Athlete, and a legal business and leader redefining how artificial intelligence integrates with high-impact industries. With over $4 billion in corporate real estate transactions, a background in law, and a pioneering approach to building responsible, emotionally intelligent AI systems, Andrew brings a super unique lens to the intersection of real estate, enterprise strategy, and emerging tech. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Zeus. I'm very proud of you and everything you've been accomplishing thus far, and I'm hoping we can drop some good knowledge for your audience base today.
Right, let's get straight to it, Andrew. So for the people who don't know your background, how you got started, what you're doing now in real estate, can you give us a quick introduction, please?
I'll do my best. So I started right out of law school. I joined a corporate real estate advisory firm. We considered ourselves boutique at over 35,000 employees. And in doing so, I'm able to grasp, what challenges that corporate real estate and real estate professionals have. And it's a very unique industry because we look at data very differently than most. We look at data that if it is already made public, we believe then you're too late to the game, right? We strive on information. Information is our currency within real estate and within a lot of businesses. So I recognize that AI systems will not be able to collect data as transactions are going on. They collect it once it's already public knowledge. And if you're in the trenches as a professional, that's already too late. So we recognize, and we being my team and I, recognize that there is a gap in the marketplace and a gap in the industry for not only accessible data that is taking place while you're working on transactions and, like I said, in the trenches, but of your actual data and portfolio information to become accessible. A lot of times we're still in the Stone Age in certain respects of real estate data, and my goal was to bring us into 2025 and prepare the workforce to be able to have accessible data when they need it.
Right, that's true. That's exactly true, Andrew. I feel like we're still kind of in the Stone Age, and there's a lot of new ways where you can integrate artificial intelligence in various aspects of the real estate value chain. So that's super interesting. And I want to ask you, Andrew, like from traditional commercial real estate consulting and your past work that you've done over to starting your own company with Bespoke A.I.R and now doing all these things, like what was the mindset shift, or was there a certain point in time that caused you to shift towards this?
Real estate is traditionally a sales industry, and it's traditionally an industry where I say January 1st, you always start fresh. Of course, you're keeping your contacts and you're keeping your relationships going at all times, but it's truly an entrepreneurial field from the start. So it was a smooth transition to recognize that, now I'm going to start a company outside of a big banner that I had attached myself to. So the real differentiator was understanding and tackling the approach of building your own brand, and that really was something that I continue to work on and something that I've been spending a lot of time on, because everyone has access to the internet, everyone has access to social media, and whenever you're calling on a prospect or touching base with a relationship that you have, you want to make sure that you're accessible yourself of what you're doing and who you are, and so that's really been the biggest shift change from relying on a big banner and all the PR and social media and marketing capabilities of large companies and what they're able to bring to the table, trying to do your very best as an entrepreneur that starts from a solopreneur and goes to grow a company, is able to do and build their brand and stay in front of people as best you can.
That's amazing. Sounds awesome, Andrew. And I know that you're at the intersection of AI and real estate. Can you tell us about the biggest misunderstandings or how people should be integrating AI within their real estate practices in the CRE world?
That's a great question, and it's a long answer, right? It's a very long answer. But the reality is, right now, we're still in such an elementary stage of implementing artificial intelligence responsibly into the workplace and workforce of real estate. There is a ton of work that's being done, but it might not be as responsible, ethical, and the real keyword, accurate as it's supposed to be. If you're relying on artificial intelligence and it's not accurate, then you're relying on a product or a solution that's really of no help. So the focus is on preparing accurate data for deployment to your workforce. And the only way to be able to do that right now is to rely on your first party data. So first party data is tremendously important when it comes to implementing artificial intelligence. And what that is it means it's data that's coming directly from you, your organization, on a first-hand basis, so that you don't have to rely on potential inaccuracies, rely on potential misinformation that you're going to then go and utilize to do a transaction, which would be terrible down the road. So the real most important part right now is organizing your company data. A lot of organizations themselves don't realize that their data is not as prepared and as put together as it really should be. A lot of times transactions are done by individuals in almost a siloed manner, and what that means is that you have discretion and you have a job and a role to work on transactions depending on buildings, and at times that information is not shared up until the closing of a deal. At times, depending on the size of the deal, it may not be shared accurately in terms of the broader marketplace and broader industry, and specifically even then if you narrow it down within the walls of your firm due to sometimes sensitivity of information, confidentiality of certain transactions, right? So you don't always get the exact information on corporate real estate transactions, where it is very different than if you're buying or selling a home, right? When you're buying or selling a home in certain areas, then that information can become public knowledge. But when you're renting an office, or at times even renting an apartment, part of a large portfolio that could be tens of millions to hundreds of millions to billions of dollars of portfolios, right? Of what the value of buildings can be. That information at times is very much tightly protected. So the ability for an organization to start to organize, curate that data, understand what they're going to include in a AI system is the starting point. Because I say there is no AI strategy without your data in place. So that's where it starts, from the get-go. Because no real organization that has a lot of employees and a lot of assets are relying on some generic AI system to just deliver them data without it being fact-checked.
Yeah, makes complete sense, Andrew. And tell us more about Portfolio Pulse. I'm curious to know what real pain points in the market it solves and how it's structured in today's world.
So what is Portfolio Pulse, right? And Portfolio Pulse is the AI solution that my team has created, and it's powered by my company Bespoke A.I.R AI. And what is A.I.R? I get asked a lot, and it's artificial intelligence review. And the R in AI is many times forgotten, and I'm putting it at the focal point and the front of what responsible AI has to be. Without the review in AI, we are going down a path of potential misinformation, what's called hallucinations, and you can't do that if you want to deploy artificial intelligence responsibly in a workplace setting. So Portfolio Pulse is the review and AI for real estate. We take your data, we curate it with a consensus building team that your organization puts together, and we upload your documents in a secure manner, and then we go ahead and we test that product until we feel that it is accurate. Just like before self-driving cars are allowed on that road, it must be tested over and over and over, because there is no room for error when you're stepping into a vehicle, and there is no accepted rule for error when you're relying on information that is people's livelihoods, right? That is corporations' financial instruments and what they have to report on. So we are doing that due diligence for the organization, along with curating it and developing this system, retrieval system, that you can upload your data to, and we do it in an engaging and approachable conversational AI way. And our goal at Portfolio Pulse is to say, you are not going to remember what life was like working after you start using our product.
Can you tell us more about how these LLM models are specifically trained for the different frameworks?
Yeah, so LLM is a large language model, and right now there's many iterations coming to play where they're becoming more compartmentalized and smaller language models. And the large language models they're large, right? Which means they have a lot of information for them to be able to retrieve from. And if you want to get specific high-level information on certain topics, you run the risk of it being prepared, right, and delivered in a way where it may not be totally accurate, or it may be biased, it may be culturally sensitive, right? Those are all certain ways where there are challenges within large language models that currently exist. So a large language model takes information from a large pool of places, whether it be the internet, whether it be books and publications, and really wherever the settings are set to take information from, it retrieves it, and then it enables the user to be able to ask a question and receive a response based off of it. The challenge is it correct? Where are you getting the information from? Is it sourced? And would the user be happy with knowing that they're relying on a response coming from where it is being retrieved from?
Andrew, I'm curious to ask you this. How are you balancing scalability for these different companies while being responsible in terms of AI, like towards the specific user at the same time? Like, how does one balance that?
So, listen, privacy and security is a challenge for everybody personally, individually, when using these systems, but it's also a challenge when you're deploying it on behalf of an organization. And it's a challenge on both sides of the coin, from the developer themselves as well as the user accessing it as well. So you do your best to first educate the user on what they're signing up for, educate everybody on what the potential misrepresentations can be, the disclaimers are, because nobody reads the terms of privacy and as much as they really should. But the reality is, when my focus is within just the real estate industry, and I'm working on a couple of other products where it will be deployed to children, where also another totally different type of language model and totally different type of information that's being delivered, but both highly sensitive, right? One for information that's going to children, and one that's going in the hands to make potentially multi-million-dollar transactions. Both need to be as secure and private as you can, and in doing so, the best way for the organization is to keep their data in-house, not to go transfer it to third-party servers and infrastructure in place to do everything and a lot of the big brands can't do, because they can't make specific organizations to start housing their software on the company's infrastructure. But the best and safest way is if you can customize, and this is why we thought of Portfolio Pulse, is if you can customize a solution that's built and deployed on an organization's infrastructure. And then they go out and they deliver multi-factor or multi-authenticators to be able to deliver access to each user. That's number one, that you can help understand and restrict access and understand who's gaining access to your system. And number two is the ability to silo your hosting and silo your infrastructure deployment. That's the best way. And I am I'm not going to say I'm the least anymore, because I put in too much work to understand how the tech is run. But still, it is a difficult topic to conceptualize to an average user or an average person on how security and privacy works, and that's why they put it all in the small print, so we really can't understand it ever.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, Andrew. It's great actually that you mentioned that. But you also mentioned your a specific approach towards children and whatnot within these this AI system. Tell us more about that. I'm curious.
Well, so whenever you're putting something in the hands of children, and you will have to have parental guidance, that's first, right? And parental authorization and access to be able to do that. Parental control systems. At times you'll see the ability to just start with one YouTube video, and there's YouTube Kids, or go on social media and you're scrolling and you end up somewhere where you shouldn't be. Imagine it's for children, and if you put in the hands an AI system or a language model that responds to anything. I mean, none of us have ever received a response from an AI system that says I don't know, right? There's always an answer for everything. And the reality is we're creating a system where it will say, I don't know. Or it will say, we'll have to get back to you. We're here to discuss, a certain topic or certain subjects. So within kids, it's for sports, health, fitness, nutrition, and curating the right data, being able to tell the parents that, this is where the information is coming from specifically. And if you're okay with this being your source of information, then have your child use this, because it's going to be endorsed by professional athletes and it's going to be endorsed by the right people. But it's still so important to make the right claim, and to educate the audience and the parents themselves that we're not going to hallucinate, we're not going to share information that is not accessible to know where it's coming from. And to what's called protect, is to guardrail protect the system from making such hallucinations or answering questions that it shouldn't.
Andrew, balancing all these different tasks that you're doing and these companies, and with the rise of AI and everything that's going on, what has been the biggest challenge that you've faced so far?
So I get asked this question often at times, but my background from real estate is you always have multiple clients at all different parts of a deal and a life cycle of a deal. Whether you're finishing up a deal with one client and then starting a brand new process with another one while trying to pitch for a new one, you're always balancing multiple transactions, multiple companies, multiple relationships all at once. So having had that background of doing such, it was easier, of a transition to continue doing so just with, and by the way, it's similar clientele because, my focus is still on real estate. I always do add saying that, New York City is a blessing and a curse, because, the blessing is you have access to so many individuals that make decisions, and it's easier to, knock on a door or make a phone call and say, you're right out, you're working right nearby, than being somewhere, siloed out in, other parts of the country or the world. But then, the curse is there's a lot of you out there, and everyone is a shark and everyone's competing. So you always have to be on your game and ready to, at times spread yourself a little thin. So, to answer your question and to lean off of that phrase, that's the biggest challenge, right? Spreading yourself a little too thin. I've said it different ways in the past, but I really believe, everyone's challenge as an entrepreneur and everyone's challenge with access to artificial intelligence that enables you to move quicker than ever and right your wrongs and correct your mistakes. It still is, the ability is there more than ever to go off in directions and not complete certain tasks because you find yourself able to go and do so many different things. So don't spread yourself too thin, but at the same time utilize that artificial intelligence to make yourself dangerous and be able to do more than you had without it. Because if you're just doing the same amount of work and you're using artificial intelligence, then you must have a lot of time on your hands. So if you're using artificial intelligence and doing the same amount of work you used to do without it, well, now you have an opportunity to go and do, much more.
That makes complete sense, Andrew. And at times it does feel like on my end I'm also spread too thin, but fortunately for me, AI is speeding up that process.
Everyone thinks AI is supposed to take people's jobs, but in reality, just let those people use AI, and you're going to be able to see who gets stuff done, right? Give them access to AI, and then determine who in your workforce is not pulling their weight or being creative or able to do more themselves. We should all be able to do more, not, all of a sudden have to just do the same and now we don't need somebody. Find a way to grow and expand your business, because those that are using AI, they're coming and they're going fast and they're coming into industries that they weren't in before.
Yeah, they're sharks. That's crazy. Andrew, you mentioned your background in New York. I'm in LA, and I know the LA market, it's tough out here. I want to know more about how New York is and where you see it in the future 5 to 10 years from now.
I see New York as thriving, and how I look at that is retail. And I've been here, for the last 15 years. I went to law school in New York City, right into real estate. I'm raising a family in New York City, and in doing so, I was through the worst of it, where the streets were empty as you can walk in the middle of a street on Park Avenue in the middle of the day. Of course, things were closed, but to show you, seeing it rebuild from zero to where it's back today. I always look at the retail stores, and I look at the rents that are being asked, and the vacancies or the lack thereof within the marketplace. That's how I gauge how New York City is vibing and thriving. So you can walk down Fifth Avenue every day, and you can feel if it's a little bit quiet or not. You can really feel that energy in New York City, and I feel it. A lot of companies, they are getting their workforces back to the office, and the reality is a little bit of it is because they've spent so much money on their rent and building out the space that they're protecting their investment, and they may as well use it. It was funny during COVID. All the media, New York City and the workplace, it's done. But people forgot that all of these large organizations signed 10, 15, 20-year lease obligations, corporate guaranteed. So where were they going? Until it was safe to come back. And by the way, a lot of workplaces need to be redesigned, right, and reorganized in a different manner because of it. But now, 5 years later, the workforces, they all reinvented themselves. The workplace design, they reinvented themselves, and I see New York City hustling and bustling, and people that are now able to work hybrid places, even younger professionals. They now have an opportunity, even if they spend all their rent, all their money, but they're able to come live in New York City for a year or two when they never were able to do it, right? So, people have the opportunity now because of a hybrid workplace to come in and, really choose to live where they want. And everyone wants a piece of New York and LA and other markets at least some point in their life.
Yeah, that's exactly true, Andrew. You also mentioned that you're raising a family. Tell us what has been the biggest challenge between this work-life balance, and how are you going about that?
You pick your head up and time flies. So I'm doing my best to not worry about it, because I have and I realized that, oh my God, years have flown, and I have a 5-year-old now, and and a 2-year-old, and by the time I figure it out, it's they're gonna be and not want to talk to me anymore, right? It's I'm thankful that they still want to, that the 5-year-old, and hopefully the next several years, they enjoys talking to me. But the funny part is just in focus. Try to focus on enjoying it, and not now. At first, are you doing a good job? How do you balance it? And you just do the best you can. If you focus on it, you're going to realize you're going to pick your head up and it's going to be gone. So do everything you can to live in the moment. That's my message, and that's what I tell myself every morning.
Cool, Andrew. So now, as we finish off this podcast, I just want to ask you, what are you most excited about in terms of the incorporation of artificial intelligence in real estate and impact sectors in the coming years?
So I love the fact that we're still in the first inning, and there's so much growth to be had. And what I've actually witnessed a lot lately is, compared to other organizations where AI is being discussed every day, almost every hour, from somebody in the organization, that's not happening within real estate. And the conversation within real estate is always about the deal, and AI needs to come in and be a ancillary resource to that information to help do deals and to help reduce time spent on tasks that should not take as long as they've taken for so many years. So the most exciting part about it is welcoming this new concept and this new technology, and making it a part of everyone's conversation. So it's exciting because I'm used to picking up the phone, and on the other end of it is, hey, we just spoke about this 10 minutes ago from your competitor, or even someone in your office. And now when you're picking up the phone and discussing real estate with regards to AI, it is something that is not being spoken about on the phone as much as what I'm used to. So it's new and it's exciting. And whenever you're entering into a space where there's something to learn from everybody, to me, that's always amazing.
I completely agree. Artificial intelligence, it's still really nascent when it comes to the application to these old industries. So that's really exciting, and I'm just glad. I'm looking forward to it, Andrew. So for my last question, what would be the best piece of advice that you could give any young emerging person who wants to get their career started in CRE? What would be the best practice, first steps to take, and whatnot?
You can apply this to anything, but specifically with commercial real estate, you need to become an expert in one aspect of it. And there's a lot of professionals that say, well, what do you mean one aspect of it? Because we're focused on commercial real estate. So what I really mean is the market of it, because the only way you're going to be able to be invited into rooms that others won't be when you're a younger professional is if you can provide value to that room. And the only way you're going to be able to provide value to a room as a young professional is knowing information that others don't. And those that are senior professionals and have been doing something for 15 or 20 years, or even 30 or 40 years, what they at times don't know as much as what you, the younger professional, should know is up to date market information, what's going on, because you have the time to do the research, and you have the time to go become an expert on what's going on today in the last 24 months, where you have individuals who have been focused for 30 years on what's going on. And you can imagine that's why. And they're also spending their time on working on transactions, right? So you have enough time in the day to find a way to provide value. And for me to give advice, and it's what I did, and it's how I separated myself apart, is knowing the market, bringing opportunity to somebody that you found out because you hit the phones, you spoke to landlords, you spoke to colleagues, you spoke to competitors. Those are ways that you can enter rooms that you were not previously invited to, and doing them sooner than those of your peers.
That's amazing advice, Andrew, and I completely stand by that. So that's awesome. Thank you, Andrew. And where
No
can people
problem.
learn more about what you're doing, Bespoke Air, and everything about you, like your social media following?
Yeah, I responsible AI underscore guy is my Instagram, and you'll hear and learn a lot about artificial intelligence. You'll learn a lot about you know the being a little bit of a parent, and you'll learn a lot about how to implement AI to that skill set. The of being a parent, and then lastly, LinkedIn is great for younger professionals specifically to get on there early, build your network early, because I really was always on LinkedIn, but I started to be active in it way later than I should have, and really started the last 2 3 years to utilize it in the right way. And if I would have started doing it at 23 24, and had 10 15 years of this, I mean, the access that you have to people there
It's huge.
is amazing, and I think that's how we found each other too. So kudos to LinkedIn or Instagram, and it's great ways to connect. And timing is everything. Don't forget that, but don't let it ever slow you down either, or make you stop from going full steam ahead. Sometimes it comes down to timing, but if you don't take the shot, it'll never go in.
That's exactly true. And it all comes back to personal branding. I always say, I reached out to you on Instagram, and now we're here recording this
Oh,
podcast.
there you go. It was Instagram. There you go.
Yeah. So, Andrew, I appreciate you, all the tips and everything. It was a fun chat. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a great one.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.